Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Daily Drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and the topic today is not Carolina basketball, and it's not Carolina football. It's ACC related. Specifically, welcome to the ACC, SMU. A lot of us, until last August, never could have imagined saying welcome to the ACC SMU. A lot of people don't really know much about SMU. It's Southern Methodist University. It's located in Dallas, Texas. It's got a pretty significant, notable alumni list. It's a good school. It's a private school. It's an expensive school. It's a beautiful school. And there are a lot of things to like about SMU. Now, are there a lot of things to like about SMU being in the ACC? I think there are. Given the fact that we have opened up this giant box over the last few years in college sports, and SMU to the ACC really doesn't sound that crazy, all things considered. Cal and Stanford, yeah, crazier for sure. They're coming up in August. They're not on board just yet, although they will participate in the ACC kickoff in Charlotte in the end of July, even though they technically won't be in the league just yet. Anyway, SMU July 1st, they're in. Here's some stuff about SMU, and then I'm going to get into a little bit about why it's good and maybe why it's not good. Most of which you guys probably know, but let's have a little fun with it and talk about the newest member of the ACC, the Ponies, the SMU Mustangs, first Mustang in the ACC. Student body, just under 12,000. 136,000 alumni, 61,000 in the DFW, which is Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's not a huge school, doesn't have a massive alumni base, so it's not going to be a huge a draw on TV. You know, we're in a TV and streaming world right now, and I don't know how much SMU enhances the ACC's product in that respect. If it were a public school, let's say in Morgantown, West Virginia, which has more than twice the number of alumni, you would think the TV numbers would automatically be better, but the ACC has ignored that school for too long, and now it has SMU. By the way, the football program at SMU has been pretty good of late. In fact, heading into this season, a lot of people are picking the Mustangs top 4 or 5 in the ACC, one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC and all that. I don't know. I think that they could certainly come in and be competitive. There's no doubt about that. But the SMU was 11-3 last year, and a lot of this is based on that. They were also 0-3 in Power 5 games and weren't exactly losing to stalwarts. They lost to BC in a bowl game, lost to TCU, which struggled some last year, and also lost at Oklahoma, which is Oklahoma. Couple more things about the school and the programs. I'm just going to throw some information out there. Let SMU soak into your ACC veins. No football team in 1987 and 88. If you have not seen the 30 for 30 about SMU, living in the world of NIL long before NIL, you should watch it because that stuff's real. I was very aware of college football when Eric Dickerson and Craig James and those guys were running up and down the field when SMU played its home games at Texas Stadium where the Cowboys played. They were a big deal for a while there in the early mid-'80s and then got in all kinds of trouble, and NCAA gave the football program the death penalty. Interesting note here, Mack Brown and Carolina played at SMU around 1994. So the program had no team for 2 years, then was kind of rebuilding and did it with young guys, and it was a patchwork effort a little bit there for a while. But in 94, the Tar Heels went to Dallas and played SMU there, and the return game was in 2001, was actually supposed to be played in September, was postponed because 9/11 occurred, and nobody played that weekend, and the game was pushed back to December, which is one of the few December home football games Carolina's ever had. And it just so happened to be the last game of the regular season. Carolina won. The Peach Bowl had someone on the field extend the invitation to John Bunning right after they beat SMU. And then a few weeks later, about a month later, the Tar Heels beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. So there's a little history, a little connection there with SMU. As I said, last year, 11-3 overall, 0-3 against Power 5. In basketball last year, 20-13 overall, 11-7 in the AAC. New coach, though, Andy Enfield, comes over from Southern Cal. Enfield was a longtime assistant at Florida State. He was really the right-hand man there in many respects for Leonard Hamilton, and has been considered for years one of the great teachers of shooting in the sport. And when I was with doing stuff for the ACC Sports Journal, Dave Glenn's old magazine, very good publication, by the way. I did a story for the publication where I talked to about 8 ACC assistant basketball coaches, and it was about their futures, what they wanted. And Andy Enfield was one of them. And he was very happy in his role at Florida State, loved teaching the art of shooting, but he said he wanted to be a head coach eventually. So if you remember Florida Gulf Coast, when they beat Georgetown in the NCAA tournament, they were they had a donkey nickname. Tell me on Twitter. I'm forgetting their nickname, the donkey nickname that they had at Florida Gulf Coast that year. Carolina, I think, played them the following year in the NCAA tournament, around that range. But give me the nickname. If you give me the nickname, first one to do it, I'll give you 3 free months THI. How about that? And remind me of this, because we throw a lot of stuff out there. So anyway, he then went to Southern Cal and was surprised that SMU fired Rob Lanier and then brought in Andy Enfield. I think part of it is they're moving up. They're moving up to the big time, to a deluxe conference in the sky. Bruce Young will know exactly what I'm talking about right there. And maybe a few of you older guys will as well. Football stadium, Gerald R. Ford Stadium, 32,000 seats. They don't fill it. It's expandable to 45,000. They have money for that. The average attendance, the last 6 seasons, they've had, you go from 19 last 5 seasons, including 2020, they've had winning records. Of course, 2020 attendance doesn't factor because of COVID, but the highest average attendance per season going back to 2019, and when they've had consistent winning records, was only 24,971. Just 22,616 last fall, and they were ranked. They got a lot of attention. And fans knew they were going to the ACC. Maybe they were just turned off by the league. I don't know. But they don't fill it. It's not a huge school. They have the second smallest stadium in the ACC, or it's around Wake's. Wake's was 31.5, but they added those seats in the end zone, and they kind of tinker with the numbers. Bottom line is 32,000 is very small for Power 5. So it's not like the ACC added, that school from Morgantown that has 60+ thousand seats and come close to filling it up every game. So what you're doing here is you're adding essentially Boston College with a little more interest. That's kind of what the ACC has done here from an attendance standpoint, a stadium size standpoint, a TV eyeball standpoint, and an alumni base size standpoint, which these days probably isn't the greatest move to make. However, we all know that SMU's paying their way in. They want to join. The ACC needs their team. I think there are a lot of positives about getting the footprint in Texas. No doubt about that. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Another thing about SMU is the money. And I think this is what intrigued the ACC, because SMU is paying its own way, but it's also a school that really sees itself as being a lot bigger athletically than it has been. And it needed that association to become that school. So they averaged 22,500 fans a game last year in football. But that's with AAC teams coming in. Now you flip it around, you've got ACC teams going in there. They're going to travel more people, so tickets will be sold there. Locals will be more interested in and rolling up to Gerald R. Ford Stadium and slapping down 65, $70 for a ticket to go see Virginia Tech as opposed to, I don't know, Temple. That makes a lot of sense. So they should draw much, much better. That will be the telltale. They have the stadium expandable to 45,000. They got money to do it. How quickly are they at 45 and how much are they filling it at 45? A lot of that will have to do with their success, and a lot of that will have to do with how long the honeymoon of moving to the ACC continues. One other interesting note about SMU, because I'm recording this as the College World Series is going on, there's no baseball team at SMU. You would think a school in Texas would have baseball. You know, Dallas Baptist is a really, really good program right there. Southern Methodist is much more of a big-time athletic school. No baseball. They dropped baseball in 1980 after having a team for 61 years, and they have not started baseball back up yet. They might want to think about it, especially now at the league they're in. ACC's pretty damn good. So I think it'd be kind of cool if SMU decided to bring back baseball. They know, Lord knows they have the money and they're willing to spend it because they are footing the bill here for the next 7 years as members of the ACC. So welcome to the ACC, SMU. I've already kind of danced around some of the positives and negatives. I think it looks a little bit desperate that the ACC brought them in, to be honest with you, especially a school that's essentially buying their way into the club. And what kind of club is the ACC? Is it diluted rather because of SMU and then Cal and Stanford? I think it is. You add more teams, yeah, it's more diluted. And it's not like any of these schools are bringing in championship pedigrees and massive sets of eyeballs. They're okay sets of eyeballs, all three. We'll see how it works out. I do think that SMU, of the three, has a chance at having a fan base that gets lathered up quite a bit by this move. The other two, I'm not so sure how excited they're going to be about it. We'll just have to wait and see. And I'm not going to talk about the other two until they formally join in about a month or so. But SMU is in, part of the ACC. There'll be a giant SMU or ACC logo on SMU's field and basketball court this year. So they're in. The ACC is changing just like everything is changing right before our eyes. If you're fascinated, I'm not going to say like, I'm going to say fascinated with SMU being in the ACC, go ahead and click like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Share the video with your Carolina and ACC and SMU friends. Let them know we're here, and head on over to our site, $8.33 a month for a 1-year subscription. You can be a Carolina insider too.